We are going live. Here we go.
Growing school.
Ready, set. Welcome, everyone. It's a special meeting of the Historical Site Preservation Board of Palm Springs. It's July 21st, 2026, 11 a.m. May I have a roll call, please, Sarah?
Yes, Chair Bachman,
Here.
Vice Chair Ponessa,
Here.
Member Hare,
Present.
Member McCready,
Here.
Member Yarchevit.
After all these years.
I know,
Present.
sorry. Member Hyams.
Yes, here.
Okay. And Member Moshka Hitchcock will not be attending. We do have a quorum.
Okay. I know this meeting's a little different from usual, it's a little smaller, but do we go through the standard? So may I have a staff report on the posting of the agenda, please?
Yes, the agenda for this special meeting was posted for public review in the required locations, as well as a location for Member Hyams in accordance with the city's policies.
Okey-doke. And does the board have any revisions to the agenda, including requests to remove items on the consent calendar for further discussion? Anyone? Okay. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. I'll second.
There you go. Eric McCready and Michael Panessa seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? 0. So it is moved. Moving on to the public comment. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the Historic Site Preservation Board on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Although the Historic Site Preservation Board values your comments, pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. There will be 3 minutes assigned to each speaker. Testimony for public hearings will be taken at the time of the hearing. Staff, do we have any additional comments on a non-public hearing item or an item that's not on the agenda?
No, we did receive one public comment yesterday, which was sent to the HSPB via email, but outside of that, we do not have anything, and that was entered into the record.
Okay. So now do we close public comment? That's that quick. We'll now close public comment officially and proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent calendar. Okay. We have one item on the consent calendar.
We actually do not have any items on the consent calendar.
None. Okay. So we can just skip the next thing. Public hearings. Nothing there. So we move on. Unfinished business. We have none. And then we're on to new business. A request by the City of Palm Springs for a request of the City of Palm Springs to demolish the existing office building at the Swim Center, a Class 4 site located at 405 South Pavilion Way, and associated reviews for potential designation of a Class 4 site to a Class 1 or Class 2 historic resource. Can you present the staff report, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So we just have a single item on our special meeting today. It's case number HDEMO 2026-0004. It is a request by the City of Palm Springs to demolish the office building at the Swim Center located at 405 South Pavilion Way. So for some site context, the Swim Center is in the southeast corner of Sunrise Park, highlighted in red on the screen. As you can see, the Swim Center building is immediately adjacent to the skate park, which I believe was constructed in around 2003. And to the north of the Swim Center is the Palm Springs Pavilion building and the Leisure Center. The Swim Center building is considered a Class 4 site by virtue of its construction date of 1975. It was part of a larger vision that included other recreational buildings on what we know as Sunrise Park today. So here are two photographs of the building as seen, maybe just from the last week. The photo on the left is the front elevation of the building when you pull up on South Pavilion Way. And the photograph to the right is looking at the swim center. And you can see, well, it's kind of in the distance there, but you can see the office space with the attached walls as you see it from the west end of the pool. From these photographs, and of course, many of you have visited the site to see, there's some clarity. It is clear that the built structure itself was a minimal building with a minimized footprint. It is a one-story building, and the only enclosed condition space is where the office is located. As found in the application submittal material, the construction of the swim center, again, was part of a larger city initiative under Proposition R to construct several recreational facilities on the Sunrise Park site. The design team that was assembled at this time included acclaimed architects like William Cody, Donald Wexler, and of course, Capter and Lapham were the firm that was selected to design the swim center. Now, the colored renderings that you see on the screen was the initial vision for the swim center. The building was much larger in scale, and the design reflects more of a brutalist appearance. You can see that the use of the battered walls on the side, and just from the rendering and the site plan and the floor plan, you can see that the swim center building, the center itself, was much larger as part of this initial design. The location of the building was much more prominent on the street. You can see the building had a symmetrical layout in terms of the floor plan where the office was center and you had the changing stations or the changing rooms and restrooms on either side. The research indicates that there was a significant reduction in funding for the overall project during the phase of construction. And unfortunately, the swim center was probably the most heavily impacted. We saw that in the different articles that were part of your packet. The final design of the swim center now reflects a much smaller building. It is pulled back from the street-facing side on Pavilion Way. The swimming pools were reoriented. Again, initially there were two, and then at a later phase, they did have a single swim center, or a swimming pool with a larger building floor plan, and then that got further reduced to what we have today. But the single Olympic-sized swimming pool does still reside on the site, and the design details were considerably simplified. Currently, the building does not comply with accessibility requirements. The community has indicated that the center is much too small for the needs of the community, and there have been many instances of deferred maintenance that the staff are continually battling on a daily basis. So those are all things that we see as a current condition of the site. So as a request before HSPB, the proposed changes to a Class 4 site is required because it is triggering demolition by definition. The proposed redesign of the swim center has been undergoing many community meetings and reviews with both the Parks and Recreation Commission and the City Council. With the existing conditions of the building itself, it was determined that the existing office structure will need to be completely demolished, and that triggers our review. Now, the walls are proposed to remain, but again, I think we want to focus on the fact that HSPB's review at this point is not really to debate the design or, what parts of the building are remaining or staying. I think at this point, because it is determined it's triggering demo, HSPB's review is to evaluate the site to see if it deserves to be elevated in terms of a historic status. So the choices that HSPB has is either one, to determine that the building in question possesses exceptional historical significance, and to initiate a stay to conduct further historical research that would initially start the designation proceedings. Or two, take no action, and this is, of course, by determining that there is not enough historical significance or integrity, or both, to allow the project to continue on its review path currently. So on the screen, and we're all very familiar with this, but it is the full list of criteria that we use to determine historical significance. The staff report does go into a bit more detail and provides more evidence on how each one has been analyzed. But just to go over a few key points, while the center was designed by a significant architect duo who designed many important buildings throughout the city, these include the Tockwitz Resort Golf Course building, which the HSPB actually designated in the last couple of years, Tockwitz Plaza on Tockwitz. They're both historically significant buildings that are on the Register of Historic Places on the local register. But the executed building that we see for the swim center, constructed in 1975, does not appear to retain its original design intent for the site and doesn't reflect the influential work that this firm has traditionally exhibited. And we don't find that the existing building is a great representation of this period of architecture. So again, it's important to note that the work that we evaluate, the sites that we evaluate, must be able to demonstrate the associations of design genius, of the architect or designer's portfolio, and saying that this is a very significant work, seminal work of theirs, or it's an exceptional example of that period's architecture or cultural significance, and that it was an important site for cultural significance for the city. Staff finds that the swim center falls short of all of these criteria. When it comes to integrity, there have been some exterior changes that have occurred over the years, but there certainly are some that still are retained, such as the location and the integrity of the setting do remain. However, staff does not find any of the historical significance criteria to be met. Therefore, the analysis of integrity becomes a moot point, because this is really to help determine if a site is a Class 1 or a Class 2 site. So with that, the site visit and the information that was found in your packet regarding the history of the site lead to the conclusion that the swim center as a whole, as it is today, does not meet the criteria to be elevated to a Class 1 or Class 2 status. The city isn't seeking for historic designation of this building. And with that, staff recommends that HSPB take no action so the project may continue to move forward with its next steps associated with the project. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the staff report and the application contents. We do have members of city staff that are very well acquainted with this project and this site, who are here to answer any questions if the board has any.
Does the board have any questions for staff? Member Hare?
You're sitting first.
Member Kayana?
All right.
Your advice.
So I know we've talked about in your report that the building has gone through a number of changes over the years, not just from its original design, when it was, if you'll excuse the expression, dumbed down for budgetary reasons, but other changes. I'm curious, in looking at the photos, like, do you know what some of those changes were more specifically?
Yeah, I can speak to a few, and then we do have the team here who's done a bit more analysis on that. But generally speaking, we do have the covers, so the corrugated covers that you saw over the locker rooms, those were certainly added later on. I think that there was a level of expansion that happened, not for the enclosed building itself, but for some of the changing rooms, so there were some changes there. And overall, it's been pretty minimal. The building is minimal to begin with. I think the community has made do with what they have. But I think those were the more significant changes that we saw. And we can certainly reach out to the group that uses it that may know a little bit more about it.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sorry.
Sorry, is there another one?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is just a syntax question. regarding the request by the city of Palm Springs to demolish the office building at the swim center at Class 4 site at 405 South Pavilion Way and associated reviews for potential redesignation, et cetera. It sounds like we're asking to demolish the associated review, and I just wonder if it shouldn't read decline to ask for an associated review or something. I mean, is that?
I know we've just kind of recycled that terminology, but we can certainly look at it to provide more clarity.
I think I understand what the intent is, but actually saying it
Yeah.
is different.
Yeah, we can certainly look at clarifying that language. Essentially, we want it to be clear that we're assessing the site to see if it needs to be elevated.
Right.
Member Yarcher.
Has Hugh Capter been consulted, or is he aware of what's going on? Does he have any?
The architect has not been consulted about this particular request in terms of the change that we're requesting, the removal of the building.
Is it not appropriate, or someone just hasn't called him, or any idea?
I mean, it could be, I mean, it certainly can be something that could have been done. We just haven't done.
It just kind of seems to me that going back to someone 50 years later saying, hey, some of the ideas you had could be incorporated. We don't know, but we'd like to get your opinion. But okay. I do have another question on the large trees that are there.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're just discussing whether we're going to take no action or not,
Mhm.
but those would be also considered historic, correct? Or?
Not necessarily. So when we are looking at landscape features for designation applications, there needs to be enough of a finding to say that, hey, these trees are historic because it's part of an overall landscape design. So there is a little bit more review that needs to happen.
It just hit me that they were not only massive, but they create a lot of shade and cool, and that's something we're not trying to eliminate in Palm Springs. So
Sure. And I think you're referring to the trees that align
around the pool.
Around the pool by the pavilion
Yeah.
building? Yeah. Those are very large trees.
There is one last question. The design renderings, the new ones that were in there,
Mhm.
is that just for us to consider, hey, this is what could be, or have they been approved, or
So
they're
the-
beautiful?
Yeah, the design review is it's been ongoing, and it is a separate review that's been happening. I think that there's been a number of community outreach sessions related to that. So that has kind of been on its own track in terms of a review process. I would say that our input here isn't really to look at the design. It was included in your packet to give you a better understanding of why this application is coming before you and why it was determined as a demolition trigger for the board. But
Thank you.
yeah.
Here's a question. If we allow it to be demolished, is the whole site, whatever's proposed for that site in the future, we've seen schematics, will it come back to us because it's a potential site, so we would evaluate anything then?
It would not, because
Okay.
it's actually not
Not
a
a site
designated
yet.
site.
Okay,
So
right.
when we have design reviews, it's for historically
Got
designated
it.
sites. 1s and 2s
Right.
come before you. 3s only come before you if, there's an impact and you wish to elevate it.
Right,
So,
right, okay.
yeah.
So if I can follow up on that. So if the board feels like demolishing it or allowing the city to demolish it is the right thing, it loses its class 4.
Yes, technically, it would receive a different construction year date. And so if it follows through and triggers the full demolition process, and it does get recorded as a different construction date, because as you know, class 4s, it's a year trigger, and so 1978 is our kind of magic number in making that a class 4. So if it changes the construction year, then yes, it would no longer come before the board. And usually that demolition is that last review that we get to see.
And if we were to allow the city to demolish that building that affects none of the other buildings, correct?
Correct. And that is a little bit of an anomaly on this site, just because we have a very large site with different structures, so we are kind of looking at it on a structure basis here.
All right, thank you.
Any further comments or questions for staff or staff? Nope. Okay. Call for a motion. Oh, discuss. Excuse me. Sorry.
I thought I saw that somebody had their hand up, but now I don't see anyone.
Okay. What's the next piece? General, public.
So because this one is not a public hearing item, it's actually at the discretion of the chair. If you wish to take comments, you can certainly do that at this time. If not, you can move forward with just your discussion and then deliberation.
Is there any reason not to? I mean, to open it up.
Not necessarily. Sometimes it, like I said, it's not required because it's not a public hearing item. But if you wish to hear comments from the public, then you're certainly welcome to open that up.
Did anyone sign up?
We don't have anyone who signed up.
Okay.
And I don't think we have anyone.
And no one online?
There's one member of the public that I don't know them online, but nobody's raised their hand to speak.
Okay, so we'll move on. So the next would be discussion. Member Hare?
I would just say that, I think this is a legitimate request, partly because as I read through the information that was provided in the reports, it seems to me that the integrity of this design was compromised long before the first foundation stone was laid. And a little bit of a parallel universe to a recent building that was built in LA at the LA County Museum of Art, where the architect has now distanced himself completely from what was built. Again, that value engineering process to defray costs or lower costs can do drastic things, and in this case, I think it did. Not only that, but it also is so inadequate for the usage that it requires that it just makes it it makes it, I think, imperative that we try to rectify that, and this is the way to do it.
I would agree completely. To jump off from that, yeah, that it functionally and aesthetically, it's compromised, it's outlived its time, function, and aesthetics. Anyone else?
One quick, seems to me a parallel between what we're doing and discussing with this building and what was discussed at the last meeting with regard to a new fire station on Indian Canyon, excuse me. Architecturally not terribly significant, interesting, outdated, time to move on and update.
Thank you.
I think, I agree with everything Member Hare said. Going through the site visit, seeing just them packed in that little tiny room, trying to do what they do, was almost embarrassing. But what really stuck out for me in the report, the staff report, was that Hugh Capter was so, if I could speak for him, so irritated and angry over how the plans had been degraded, that he kind of wanted nothing to do with it. So in my mind, if the architect is almost embarrassed by what was built in his name, that was held a lot of weight for me.
And I would agree with Member Ponessa, is that one of the things we like to do here is, what would the architect say or do? And, I can't imagine, since his project was compromised so much and probably not even considered his project to him that he would want to see something done.
Anyone else?
Can I
Yes.
I would concur. This is a very thoughtful and discussion. I would concur with all.
Very good.
I just wanted to make a quick clarifying remark,
Please.
if that's okay.
Yes, Sarah.
Just to clarify, so the report brings together kind of the design sequencing of what we saw in the research. So we see the original drawings, we see the amended drawings, and then we see the amended drawings from the amended drawings. And so we know that there has been, the firm was involved in kind of the reduction in scale. But we don't have evidence of either the architect group saying, hey, we hate this project, we're disassociating ourselves with this project. It's just an outline of how this project has been value engineered to what we have on the site. So I just wanted to provide that clarification because we did not reach out to Hugh and get his consent or his opinions about the project.
Thank you. Very true. Anyone else?
Just one added thing is that the reason I asked about the renderings earlier, they look beautiful, is I was really impressed with the design letter that was put together. I thought it was just kind of like a great step forward in terms of what we can do, what we should do. And I was almost a little confused as like, that almost seemed like the report, this is what we're going to do. But it was more of a analysis, right? It was, is that true? The design
Sorry, Susan.
project that was given to us?
So there isn't a design to review, the project itself, are you referring to?
The letter from the design firm.
Right, so you're the justification letter and the,
Yeah.
so that provides kind of their process and how they're moving forward and how they view the project, yes, so that is.
So it just seemed encouraging to me. Okay.
Unfortunately, that's not under our jurisdiction.
I know.
I know it hurts.
I keep pushing the boundaries that we'll get back in.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Anyone else? Then, seeing no further discussion, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Member Hare.
Oh, okay. Well, I move that we recommend to the city council that they approve the request by the city of Palm Springs to demolish the office building at the Swim Center, a Class 4 site at 405 South Pavilion Way, and hopefully associated review for potential redesignation of a Class 4 site to a Class 1 or 2 historic resource, APN number 502-200-002SY.
I'm gonna.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So just to clarify, it's actually, the recommendation is on your agenda. It's actually not a recommendation to the city council. It's actually something that
request.
our board here, it's either to designate or to move for, put a stay and then proceed with historic designation proceedings, or to take no action.
Okay, then I withdraw the prior motion.
Take two.
And move that the Historic Site Preservation Board vote to take no action and refer applicant to proceed with next steps and standard building permit procedures.
A second.
Second by Member Panessa. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. Anyone against? So we're 6 in favor, 0 against,
6-0 with 1 absent.
and 1 absent.
I think I must have froze. Did I vote aye on that? Yes.
That's, got that. Any, let's see.
Motion passes.
The motion passes. Thank you. Board member reports, requests, or comments? Just looking at the agenda there. Anything? Staff comments?
We're dark in August, so I think just check your emails, because I will have some site visits lined up for our September meeting, which is on September 1st. So you want to just make sure you're keeping an eye on your city emails. Other than that, I won't bother you.
Very good. And then I'm adjourning the meeting. The Historical Site Preservation Board, the City of Palm Springs, is adjourned. It is 11:35, Tuesday, the 21st of July. Thank you all. Good meeting.
On to the next.